Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Grade 11. Only a few of the students are here, so this is a recorded session. Inshallah, all the other grade 11 will be able to watch this in the future. Okay, kasi mahina ang internet dito sa amin. I don't know why. But anyway, moving forward. So the subject for this sem is practical research 1. But since this is technically our first time meeting for second sem, I actually handle 3 of your subjects for this sem, which is the 2 applied subjects. So app 3, which is this, practical research 1, and then app 4, which is empowerment technologies. So noong, I don't know when I said this, maybe in the first ever lesson for MIL, I forgot, but I've already gave you an insight of what are your subjects for senior high school. So meron tayong mga core subjects, those are foundation based subjects. Lahat kayo, kahit anong strand, meron kayong subject na ganun. Applied subjects or application, ito yung mga subjects na madami kayong gagawin, no? And then, ang specialized subjects naman dito kayo nagkakaiba with the other strands because you have your own specialized subjects. But in any case, as you can see, if you noticed, specialized subjects ng gas, it actually comes from different strands. Like meron kayong applied economics, which is a specialization subject of ABM. Meron kayong Philippine Politics and Governance, which is another specialized subject of HUMS. Meron kayong elective, which is General Biology, and then General Biology 2, which is a specialized subject of STEM. So halo-halo ang gas specialized subjects. But in this case, kung nahirapan kayo sa akin last sem, mas mahirapan kayo this time around because again nga, dalawa sa akin na subject ay applied. No, bigatin ang mga applications natin this time around. In empowerment technologies, ang daming performance tasks doon. If you have seen the modules, naka-ano na lahat, no, naka-post na lahat sa Moodle. Practical research, we'll talk about the performance task for this subject later on. And then we have statistics, which is a core subject. And although para lang di siyang general mathematics ang dating niya, but statistics is a bit more complex than general mathematics. So kung nahirapan na kayo sa general mathematics last sem, mind setting again, mas lalo nyo pang i-prepare ang sarili ninyo for statistics. Okay, I hope that was clear. So anyway, moving on to practical research 1. Last time, hindi ako nakaklase kasi nga nasa biyahe ako. But moving on, what is the main, tawag dito? What is the main objective of practical research 1? Ang main objective actually ng practical research 1 is for you guys to have or to write your own, what do you call this one? Qualitative research. So this course aims to help you learners develop analytical skills in solving real-life problems through qualitative research. So ang main output ninyo is a qualitative research paper. So mag-target na tayo kaagad. So dapat after the first quarter, which is technically the third quarter, no? Pero sa senior high school kasi iba, by sem nga. So ang nagkataon lang na third quarter na tayo, pero in actuality, because this is the beginning of a new sem, so first quarter, no? So dapat after the third quarter summative test, maka-outline defense na tayo. And then second quarter, which is by the end of the school year, dapat naka-final defense na tayo. Okay, so makisabay, ang final defense niyo is probably isabay natin sa final defense din ng grade 12 students. Okay? So that is why ang pinakauna ninyong task last week is to brainstorm for different keywords or topics na pwede ninyo or interested kayong studyhan so that later on, madali na lang sa inyo mag-formulate ng problem statement. Because dito nahirapan actually ang grade 12. Not exactly nahirapan, pero tinamad style ba? So dapat kayo, hindi na kayo magtinamad. Dapat automatic makagawa na kayo or maka-brainstorm na kayo ng magandang title for your research paper. So next, okay. Ang research format natin, napakahusay ng ano ko, ng aking laptop. I don't know what's happening. Okay, ulit. Okay, meron tayong tinatawag na research format. And I hope, wala kayo naka-term paper last year, no? Nung grade 10 kayo. Sino ang English teacher ninyo last year? Kasi usually, dapat merong term paper ang grade 10 students. Too bad. It's okay. So anyway, ang research format natin, ito yung sinusunod natin usually. We have chapter 1, introduction. Ang chapter 2 naman is RRL or review of related literature. And then we have chapter 3, methodology, methods. Ang chapter 4 naman is results and discussion. And then ang chapter 5, ang pinaka-last chapter, is summary, conclusion, and recommendation. Recommendations. Okay. So lahat yan guys isusulat ninyo. Kaya mabigat ang research na subject. Kasi hindi siya basta-basta. Ano? And Teacher Hodge is going to be one of your panel members, yung mag-critique ng inyong paper. And Teacher Hodge has been writing a lot of research papers. So hindi kayo basta-basta mag-copy ng mga pre-made or nagawa na ng mga research studies. Even I have been, browsing and skimming through different research studies kasi nga towards the what do you call this one, completion of the practical research 2 ng grade 12, kinailangan din akong magbasa-basta ng mga research. So you cannot simply copy-paste things online or anywhere that you got a research study kasi nga ikikritik namin yan. Aside from that, included din sa panel members ninyo si Ustad Ahmad at saka si Ustad Abdu. So, 4 in total ang mag-critique ng paper ninyo. Hindi kayo i-judge, ha? Critiquing is different from judging. You are going to be critiqued. Ibig sabihin, tutulungan kayo na mapaganda ang research paper ninyo, na mapaayos, na magiging okay siya, that it makes sense, that you actually know what you're doing. Ganon ang ibig sabihin ng critique. So, ang pinaka-pagtuunan natin ng pansin is chapter 1, which is under ng chapter 1, meron din siyang iba-iba ang sections. First, you have the background of the study. Then you have the problem statement, assumption, significance of the study, scope and limitation of the study, and then definition of terms. Background of the study, ito yung, kumbaga pa, i-state mo ang dahilan kung bakit gusto mong studyhan ang problem na ito. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng background of the study. Huwag ka muna mag-delve into details sa mga statistical reviews or any other studies na ginawa. That is for RRL. Chapter 2, yun siya. Dito sa background of the study, just give it straightforward. Ano yung mga bagay na nag-udyok sa'yo para studyhan ang problem statement mo. Like, for example, let's say, you want to know what is the effect of the pandemic in the mental awareness of the students. So probably in the background of the study, you're going to talk about how come merong pandemic. No? A little bit of COVID, a little bit of what's happening right now. So everything is shut down. No? Gusto mong sabihin yun. And then nag-transition tayo from face-to-face. We are now in distance learning modality. And then, okay, nawala ang internet namin. Can you hear me? I'm back. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. So anyway, doon yun just the background of the study, no? You might be talking about the pandemic, and then you're going to talk about mental awareness, mental health awareness, I should say. Be very specific. Like, because ang dami, no? Ang daming nangyari, ang daming issues, ang daming stuff that came out of this pandemic. So, pag-usapan niyo siya doon sa background of the study, and then you will like transition na sasabihin niyo na this is the reason or these are the reasons why the researcher would like to study if there is an effect, if the pandemic itself has an effect to the mental health awareness of the students. And then mag-proceed na kayo ngayon sa problem statement, which is ang problem statement niyo is that, your title itself. So the problem of this study is to observe if the pandemic really did affect the mental health awareness of the students, no? Tapos mag-specify kayo ng at least 2 to 3 na specific problems na pagkatapos ng research ninyo, masagot ninyo siya. Like for example, you will ask, number 1, no, sasabihin mo specifically, the study aims to answer the following questions. Number 1, does the students know about mental health? No, are they aware? Titingnan mo muna kung aware ba sila, no? And then you will ask maybe the students, like for example, you want to know the level of their mental health awareness perhaps, and then later on, you wanted to know if indeed pandemic affected their mental health awareness. So specific na mga problem statement na later on, pagdating mo ng chapter 4, which is results in discussion, you're going to discuss it and you will answer the problem statement that you have. Next is assumption. Ang equivalent nito sa quantitative research is hypothesis testing. Now, hypothesis is just an assumption, no? Hypothesis. It's just a scientific guess, no? Assumption mo nga, yung sa tingin mong mangyayari. So, if for example, going back to that same problem that I have stated earlier, ang assumption natin ngayon is that pandemic really did affect the mental health awareness of the students. Or pwede mong sabihin na due to the pandemic, the mental health awareness of the students increased. No, pwede mong sabihin na ganon. So that is your assumption. Now, ang significance of the study naman is kanino relevant or important ang study na to. Kasi pag nag-research tayo, hindi basta-basta, no, na mag-research lang tayo. I mean, you could probably, you could probably be interested of anong hair color ang mas gusto ng mga lalaki sa babae. You could probably, do research about that. And it's probably, what do you call this one? Relevant and significant to other people. But we are in Wisdom Islamic School, so you have to ask yourselves, kanino ito siya relevant? Sino ang magbe-benefit? There you go. Sino ang magbe-benefit dito sa study na to pag ginawa ko ito siya? Okay. Next is the scope and limitation of the study. Ang scope is yung range, kumbaga pa, hanggang saan ang i-studyhan mo. You have to put boundaries on your research study kasi hindi pwedeng masyadong broad. For example, going back again to the same problem that I've stated earlier, mental health awareness. What type of awareness are we talking about? What type of mental health are we talking about? So dito mo yun sa scope and limitation of the study, i-specify kung ano yung ibig mong sabihin. When you say pandemic, kasi ang daming pandemic, nung nagkaroon ng Spanish flu, nagkaroon ng Black Plague, nagkaroon ng any other pandemic before, you have to be specific. What do you mean by pandemic? So it started around December 2019 and still felt until now due to the COVID-19. Kailangan mo siyang i-specify. So that is scope and limitation. Okay? Next, we have the definition of terms. Definition of terms in this study is just defining the terms that are, what do you call this one? Hindi masyadong certain, hindi specific. Like for example, if you're going to use DepEd, hindi lahat ng tao na magbabasa ng research paper ninyo, automatically alam ko anong ibig sabihin ng DepEd. Or kailangan nyo ring i-specify when you say mental health. What do you mean by mental health? Because ang lawak ng mental health, no? Kailangan mo siyang i-define kung paano mo ginamit yung salitang yon doon sa loob ng thesis mo. Okay, like let's say pandemic as well, no? And when you say students, who do you say? Which students do you mean? Kasi ang mga taga Luzon, students din sila. Ang mga taga Visayas, meron ding students doon. Specifically, which students are you talking about? Kailangan i-define mo rin yun dito sa definition of terms. And even in the scope and limitation of the study, you have to specify that one. Okay, so moving forward, ang RL, we are going to talk about that in details next time. Okay, inshallah. So our module for today is all about the nature of inquiry and research. Grabe na guys, no? Sorry, introduction pa lang yun. Can you still hear me? Guys, nawawala wala kasing connection ko. Nagsasabi siya lost connection dito sa ano ko, sa laptop ko. That's why I have to constantly ask if you can still hear me. Okay, so anyway, nature of inquiry, this is your first module and we have to understand why are we doing research. Kasi sa lahat ng sinabi ko, baka nagsakit na yung ulo nyo, di ba? And you'll be asking, teach, para ano? Para saan to, teach? Why? Para lang ba ito pahirapan ng mga estudyante? Of course not, right? Okay, so let's go. Ang MELC ng module na ito is for you to explore the nature of inquiry and research. Specifically, at the end of the lesson, the students, you should be able to define what is inquiry and research, explain why we do research, enumerate characteristics of a research, describe the research process, and differentiate qualitative and quantitative research. So inquiry and research. What is the difference? Do they have a difference? No? So inquiry, dito muna tayo pupunta or magtingin sa inquiry. It is to look for the information by asking various questions about the thing you are curious about. What is that? Okay, sorry, merong something sa ano. Anyway, so just for example, guys. For example lang naman ito, no? Usually you'll be asking, no? Like, sino yung crush mo? Tapos, di ba, yung classmate mo ayaw niyang sagutin, no? And you'll be like, give me information about it, you know? Matangkad, taga dito ba sa ano school? Anong grade level? Ano ba? Ano pa ba? Anong color ng bag niya? I don't know, man. I don't know, yung mga usual na tinatanong ninyo. So that is inquiry, you know? You are trying to ask different questions in order to form a better picture para mag-gets mo kung ano yung nangyayari or kung sino yung taong yun. Okay? In a lexical definition or formal definition, this is coming from Merriam Dictionary, a request of information or systematic investigation, often a matter of public interest. Doon na, no? Doon na nalayo konti yung example ko. It is often a matter of public interest. Yun ang inquiry. That is why sinabi ko rin kanina, yung research. Hindi lang ikaw basta-basta magre-research na about something petty, you know, something na ikaw lang yung nakaintindi or something na ikaw lang yung magbe-benefit. But rather, it should be beneficial to a community, to the scientific community. You know, we have different, what they call this one, we have different communities out there. It might be your geographical community, you know, yung mga kapitbahay ninyo. It might be the community of gamers, the community of otaku fans, the community of K-poppers, the community of, I don't know, mga Hafid and Hafida Salafi. They are also a community. The community of teachers, the community of senior citizens, ang daming community, no? And community actually means, ang dami niyang meaning kasi hindi lang geographic location. Community is a whole lot of things. Community of politicians, online community, and even within the online community, ang daming communities like YouTube content creators, you have the influencers, you have the reactors, yung mga nag-react lang, you have the bloggers, vloggers, you have a whole lot of things, no? A whole lot of community defined out there. So dapat yung research mo, no, or your inquiry as well should be beneficial or significant to communities, whatever that community may be. Okay? So, anong difference niya, teach? What is the difference between inquiry and a research, teach? Ang research naman is to discover truths by investigating on the chosen topic scientifically. That is the main difference. The word scientifically. Because basically, research is just an inquiry using the research process, using scientific methods. Anong ibig sabihin nun, teach? Research process or the scientific methods are well-established principles and methods na ginagamit ng mga tao in any field of science. And science is a very broad knowledge, di ba? Napaka-broad ng science. We have the natural science. We have the applied sciences. We have the social sciences. Ang daming science, actually, no? Siyensya. It's a very, very broad type of knowledge. So, scientific methods are any or validated methods, no, na tested and proven na sinusunod ng any people that are doing research in any field of science. Kahit hindi science, guys. Well, actually, it's all related to science. Kahit sabihin natin teaching, that is science itself. Even the hadith, no, yung pag ano natin, pag tawag dito, the chain of narration, that in itself is science, no? Kaya nga tinatawag the science of hadith. Because the looking of the investigating and the inspection of the narration, the chain of narrations of a specific hadith is in itself investigative. 'Di ba? Meron siyang sinusunod na method. Kasi pag hindi ka nagsunod ng method, it might be that may na-miss ka, di ba? No? And might be na sabihin mo na sahih or good yung isang hadith, when each case, hindi pala. No? So that is why research is just an inquiry using scientific methods. Kaya nga, ang kanyang lexical definition or the formal definition is the scientific investigation of phenomena, which includes collection, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of facts, which leads to formation of a conclusion or generalization. That is why, di ba, makita nyo sa mga patalastas, mga commercial, 9 out of 10 moms agree that Promil is the best for babies 2 years old. So 9 out of 10 is like 90%, no? And that is, that data was collected and it was presented to you via the commercial. And then you try to analyze and interpret that like 90% of the moms says Promil is good. And then you can create a conclusion na, pag ako magka-baby, Promil na lang din ang bilhin ko. Kasi 90% out of 10 moms, no? You see how that in itself affected you, no? And looking at how many scientific research papers are out there, that is why research is relevant and important. Kasi kahit sa anong field, merong research. Okay? So I hope you understood the difference between an inquiry and a research. Now, moving on, yun na nga, yung tanong natin kanina, bakit natin kailangan mag-research teach? Pwede naman siguro na alam na namin ang ibig sabihin ng research. Well, first and foremost, you have been doing research. Your entire lives, you have been doing research. So why we do research? First of all, you have a problem and you want to find a solution for that problem. That is research. Binigyan kayo ng assignment, hindi nyo alam ang sagot. Mag-research kayo, di ba? May pinapagawa sa'yo ang teacher, hindi mo alam paano gawin. Magre-research ka, di ba? May sinabi sa'yo si mama mo, inutusan ka, hindi mo alam paano gawin yun, first time mo gagawin yun. Magsasabi ka na lang ba na hindi ko alam? Magsasabi ka na lang ba na, hindi ko man kasi alam paano to? Of course not. You are going to try to find the solution. Kasi natural sa tao ang naghahanap ng solusyon. Di ba? Kaya nga, sumikat ang life hacks ng mga videos because they feel like, these people is above the system. These people found solutions. When in reality, kayo mismo, di ba? Kayo din mismo, kaya ninyong maghanap ng sarili ninyong solution because it is, again, natural, innate for a person, for a human being to adapt. And one of our survival skills is to find solutions to our problems. Aside from that, we do research if there is a certain phenomena, and a situation that needs to be investigated in order to prepare the community for future repetition or prevent it from happening again. For example, car accidents, crime rate. Bakit tayo ina-update na, tumaas yung crime rate sa ganitong lugar? Bakit tayo ina-update? Bakit pinag-i-studyhan ng mga pulis? Bakit kailangan? Because it's a situation, it's a phenomena, and it affects people. And if you have that certain information given to you, then you can do something about it. Diba? It could be prevented in the future or ma-prepare ka bilang tao, ma-prepare mo na ang sarili mo na, dito sa lugar na to, 50% na daw ang crime rate, nagtaas pa last month. O diba, syempre mag-ingat ka sa lugar na yun or totally avoid the place. Diba? So all of these things are research and some reasons why we do research. Now, one of the most, important reasons why we do research is that we know that human knowledge is not complete. Yung lahat ng research ng tao dati, no, napupunta yun as a scientific knowledge. Aminin man natin or hindi, most of the time, no, not exactly all the time, but most of the time, naniniwala tayo pag nag-undergo ng research ang isang fact, ang isang information. If it is backed up by your research, you feel like it is credible. You feel like it is legit. It's authoritative. It's, like when you say, mag-Pfizer ka, huwag ka mag-Sinovac. Kasi ang Pfizer, 72% ang ano niya, ang effectivity rate niya. Ang Sinovac, 50% ang, how you tell these things, how you state these things, these are all coming from research. Now, going back, human knowledge. Alam natin na ang human knowledge ay hindi kumpleto. Dahil ang kumpleto lamang, ang totoong truth, no? Al-haq, ay ang Allah lamang. No? Only Allah knows the seen and the unseen. Only He knows everything. So, ibig sabihin tayo bilang isang creation, human knowledge lang, hindi tayo talaga kumpleto at never magiging kumpleto ang knowledge natin, ang kaalaman natin. No, katiting lang sa ocean of knowledge siguro ng Allah, isang droplet ang pinagati-hatian ng buong sambayanan, buong sangkalibutan ng mga tao. No? So, human knowledge is very small. Tapos yung mga topics na gipagstudihan natin na napunta sa scientific knowledge kasi nga nag-undergo na ng research, mas konti. No? Mas konti yun. And this is one of the most important reasons why we do research, is to fill in this gap. To fill in this gap, to contribute to the human knowledge. Kasi nga alam natin na hindi kumpleto. Alam natin na hindi kumpleto ang human knowledge at kakunti pa ng knowledge na na-research na natin. And that is why we can say that those are facts, those are information na beneficial. No? There is that gap. And through research, we can bridge that gap. That is why as early as senior high school, well, actually kami, sa batch namin, we started doing research at second year high school, which is what I was, I think, around 12 years old that time. No, so as young as that, kailangan mo nang mag-research because we know that the human knowledge is not complete, and we know that the scientific knowledge, yung mga bagay-bagay, yung mga topics ng tao, no, na pag-istudihan, na research, is napakakonti na nga, no? So that is why we do research, to fill in this gap. Okay? So moving forward, what is now research? Teach. Ano nga ba ang characteristics ng isang research? Teach, magiging mahirap ba ito? Teach, itong gagawin namin, makakasakit ba ng ulo? Yes. Yes, guys. Why? Well, research in itself is tedious, no? Napaka-tedious siya na trabaho. But later on, it's fulfilling. It has that psychological impact na pag nakatapos ka ng isang research, parang you're the man. Parang, yeah, I did it. Parang ganun yung feeling. Parang, yes. Kaya pagdating mo ng college, pag nagkaroon na naman kayo ng another research, kasi guys, tuloy-tuloy na to, ha? This is just the beginning, pero later on, moving forward, even naghafida ka, even sasabihin mo, baka sabihin nyo sa akin, teach, hindi man ako mag-college, mag-ano man ako, teach, mag-hafids man ako, teach. No, even then, you will do research. Kasi there are different ways and techniques to memorize the Quran, diba? And even those techniques, they undergo research. Kasi nga gusto nating patunayan na itong technique na ito ay mas madali ka talaga makamemorize. Itong technique na ito ay medyo may something. No, all of these things are being researched upon. So, starting point lang ito, guys. No? Starting point lang ito siya. Tuloy-tuloy na ang inyong research journey. Okay? So, what are the characteristics of a research? So, we have 6 characteristics here, pero actually, sa totoong buhay, madami pa. Pero in this module, ito lang muna ang pag-usapan natin. So, empirical ang research. Anong ibig sabihin ng empirical, teach? Based on direct experience or observation. Maoobserbahan mo using your 5 senses. Ano nga ang 5 senses natin, Jessa? Yup, that's right. Seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, and touch. So, lahat ng yun, kailangan mong magamit. But later on, guys, you will realize na itong 5 senses, kulang pala siya. Kasi meron ka palang logic. Tapos, meron kang intuition. Yung bang feeling ko lang. May mga ganun na bagay, no? Tapos, meron ka palang instinct. No? Natural sa iyo ang magkaroon ng instinct. Tapos, meron ka palang inductive and deductive reasoning. No? But all of these things, itong nabanggit ko, it gets information from the first 5 senses. That is why, napaka-important ng first 5 senses mo. So, research is empirical. It can be or it should be, what do you call this one? Pwede mo siyang obserbahan. Pwede mo siyang ma-experience using your 5 senses. It is logical. Ayan. it makes sense, no? Yan ang ibig sabihin ng logical. It makes sense. Because research that doesn't make sense doesn't contribute anything. Parang, ang magiging dating nun ay magsasayang ka lang ng oras. That is why meron tayong outline defense, no? Because the critic or the panel members, kailangan i-check muna nila kung meron bang point na gagawin mo tong research na to. Meron ba siyang sense, no? Meron ba siyang silbi na gagawin mo yung research na yun? Kasi baka nagsayang ka lang ng time, resources, and effort. Sayang, no? That is why we have to know first if okay ba yung research na yun. It should be using valid, systematic, orderly manner of procedures using the research process. Because if it does not use the research process, baka meron siyang bias, you know? Ibang ikaw lang ang naggawa or maybe your friend suggested it. Hindi mo yun pwedeng sabihin ng ganun. Like for example, sasabihin ngayon na, ay, ang COVID, hindi yan wala ng COVID technically. May mga nakikita ako sa internet na nagaganyan. Tapos na ang COVID. Pwede ka nang maglabas nang wala kang face mask. Paano nyo po nasabi na natapos na po ang COVID? Kasi hindi na ako nagkasakit. Yun na ang reason mo. Is that logical? No, kung isipin mo, is that logical? Is that reason logical? Kahit sinong tao na marunong mag-isip or nasa tamang pag-iisip, that is not a logical reason. And ang masakit lang guys, no? Ang masaklap lang is this type of influencers, this type of bloggers are out there and they have hundreds to thousands of viewers. And let's just say 10% of those people believe, no? Yung naniwala, mahirap na, no? Na meron palang naniniwala sa ganun. So, mas masaklap siya. That is why we have to be informed and we have to use systemic, orderly manner of procedures. Next, we have cyclical. Ito guys, ang isa siguro sa mga pinakamahirapan natin, no? Na intindihin. It starts with a problem, ends with a problem. In short, walang masasagot. Kasi nga, sabi mo kanina, teach, sa problem statement, tapos pagkatapos ng research, masagot namin yung problem statement. Yes, indeed, no? But after kasi noon, marirealize mo na, what, for example na lang, ganun ang maiisip mo. For example, ito daw ang ilagay natin. Or, for example, sa ganitong setup, another problem na naman, di ba? So, that is why research are cyclical. It starts with a problem and ends with a problem. Actually, yung mga problem na i-present ninyo at the end of your research will be in the recommendations. That is why in chapter 5, you have summary, conclusion, nag-conclude ka, and then you will recommend, no? Na possibly, i-try nyo daw, i-check kung specific, yung going back to my example earlier, i-try daw natin kung ano ang effect ng pandemic on mental health awareness and advocacy, no? Like, okay, since nagtaas yung mental health awareness ng mga estudyante, did they advocate for better mental health awareness? No, naggawa ba sila ng something about it? So, that's another problem. That's another point where you can research in the future, no? And then next, we have valid, verifiable. Dapat ang conclusion na nagawa mo or na-draw mo na conclusion from this research can be verified by either you or others. It is connected to logical. Remember in the last module of our general mathematics subject, no? Logic, it's a proposition that can be verified as true or false. Okay? So your conclusion should be like that. It is valid, no? And it is verifiable. It can be either true or false. But don't worry about it too much, guys, no? Because a lot of people, lalo na kung sa scientific community, if you have seen them, like for example, noong 1990s, they say Pluto is a planet. Around 2010s, hindi daw, satellite lang siya ng Neptune. And then around 2000 something naman, hindi lagi, may sarili siyang gravitational force. Pluto is a planet lagi. And then later on, hindi na natin alam kung ano siya. Joke lang. I think it's still a planet. I think right now, no, currently, it is still considered Pluto is still considered a planet. But then that's the point, no? It can be verified by you or other people. They can say a different hypothesis about it, and they can try to falsify or they can try to prove if your conclusion is true or false. Ang critical naman, guys, hindi ito siya yung critical na as in na nasa critical na kondisyon, no? Or critical something, but rather it is important. it's a critical information. Yun ang ibig sabihin nun. It is relevant, it is timely, and it impacts the community. Yun na nga yung sinabi ko kanina, no? Different types of community, whatever community that may be, for as long as it is beneficial to somebody, no? Aside from the researchers themselves. It should be relevant and timely. Like for example, kung iisipin mo, but then no, you can actually justify a lot of things. That is why dapat magaling kayo mag reasoning. Because if for example, if you are going to talk about let's say unpopularity or marketing strategy na ginamit ng Philippines during the SEA Games last 2019, no? Sasabihin mo, bakit pa sila nagrereklamo na ang laki-laki ng ginasto doon sa pinagsunugan ng torch? Di ba may issue yun dati? Ang laki-laki ng pinagsunugan. Bakit pa sila nagrereklamo? Pass is pass. But not exactly. No? Because you might say na 2022 na, hindi na relevant yung nangyari noong 2019. What if mag-ano na naman tayo? Mag-host na naman tayo ng another SEA Games. Di ba dapat matuto tayo sa past? Di ba matuto tayo dapat sa nangyari before? So, kailangan nating i-research yun na baka may iba pang paraan na elegante pa rin yung dating ng pagsunugan ng torch, pero hindi ganun kamahal, di ba? So, ibig sabihin, it is still relevant and timely, and it still affects the community dahil tax po ng taong bayan ang ang ginagamit sa mga ganitong klaseng events, okay? So, again, no, napakalawak ng scope ng research. And then last but not least, for this module only, kasi nga sinasabi ko sa ibang books, sa ibang modules, in reality, no, madami talagang characteristic ang isang research. Now, last one here in this module is replicability. Same procedures or instruments can be used in a different setting or research subjects. Not exactly plagiarism. Okay, hindi ito matatawag na plagiarism. For example, merong research study sa Amerika na nagsasabi na using this standardized test, matetest ko or mame-measure ko ang English proficiency level ng senior high school students. Now, looking at the questionnaire, people from UK, naisip nila na, yes, oh, this is a very good questionnaire. This is a very standardized test. So, pwede namin gamitin to, US, tapos i-check din namin ang English proficiency ng mga bata namin. Okay, go ahead. Now, they are using the same instrument, right? But is it plagiarism? Not exactly. No? Nag-ask sila ng permission, and the results of that study will be different because iba na yung tao. Ibang set of students yung kinuhanan mo ng English proficiency. So, it's different. Now, if you are going to use that in Region 11, Davao City region, for example, now, the same instrument but different results kasi nga iba na naman ang ang context, diba? And aside from that, we are not English native speakers, diba? This is our probably second language. So, iba talaga ang magiging effect nun. No? So, kahit sabihin natin na the same procedure ang ginamit, the same instrument, ang ibig sabihin kasi ng instrument, kung ano yung gagamitin mo pang gather ng data, no? The same research instrument, but you cannot exactly call it plagiarism because iba yung result. Okay? And plagiarism is actually, ang meaning talaga ng plagiarism is taking something, no? Kahit ano pa man yan, it might be a bird, it might be an output, a painting, a picture, a video, basta hindi sa'yo at inako mo na sa'yo. Or pinalabas mo na parang ikaw yung naggawa. Or wala kang sinabi, kaya wala kang sinabi, hindi mo gi-credit yung totoong naggawa. So that is why nung gi-post mo yun or gi-put mo out there yung bagay na yun, feeling ng mga tao, ikaw ang naggawa. Okay, yun ang totoong plagiarism. Okay, so it's different, okay? Replicability is just using the same procedures and instrument, but different setup. It might be a different geographical location, it might be a different, what do you call this one? Subject or research subjects or respondents. So it is still different from the original research na pinagkunan mo. And now we have the research process. Ang research process, guys, ito yung susundin ninyo sa inyong research, no? Again, in the module, iba ang pagka-explain doon. It's a longer version. Pero ito siya ang pinaka-maigsi na version. And this is used in, again, all fields of knowledge, different expertise, different fields of knowledge, no? First, you have a problem. Pero bago ka magkaroon ng problema, no? Kailangan nag-brainstorm ka muna. That is why, again, binigyan ko kayo ng task na magsulat na ng mga topics na gusto nyong pagstudihan. So, from that brainstorming, magkuha ka ng something na curious ka doon or interested ka doon because it helps. Because later on, pag nahihirapan na kayo, you might be asking yourself, bakit kasi ito ang gistudihan ko, no? May mga ganong moments tayo, no? So, pumili ka na lang ng something na feel mo siya. No, gusto mo talagang malaman kung anong magiging outcome. Gusto mo talagang malaman kung ano ang kasagutan sa katanungan na yon. Okay, so that later on, kahit nahihirapan na kayo, you have that drive, you have that motivation to finish the research. Okay? Next is we have to analyze. Because ang lawak. Ang mga research problems, guys, malalawak. Kahit yung kagustuhan ninyo, malawak. Diba, gusto kong malaman kung anong tumatakbo sa ulo ni Elon Musk. Bakit niya naisip ang electric cars? And now, gusto niyang pumuntang Mars. Diba, ang lawak. Pero ang gusto mo lang talaga malaman is ano yung tumatakbo sa isip ni Elon Musk. Pero sobrang lawak, actually, no? So you have to analyze which parts are actually relevant, which parts are needed, which part can you study. Because remember, guys, you have to be smart. So, smart is specific. Ano nga ang M? Measurable. Ang A, achievable. R, realistic. And then ang T, time-bounded. Kasi remember, isang SEM nyo lang to gawin. So, hindi kayo pwede mag-research about, let's say, what do you call this one? Ano ang mangyayari sa paa ng isang track and fielder pag Skechers ang gamit niya na shoes? Kasi hindi mo yan ma-research ng 1 year lang. Kailangan 5 to 10 years. No? So, hindi pwede. Kailangan time-bounded. Kailangan realistic. Yung feeling mo talaga mangyayari sa totoong buhay. Kailangan achievable. Kailangan attainable, no? Achievable, attainable. Kailangan ma-attain mo siya. And measurable. Yun na nga, empirical nga, di ba? Kailangan maobserbahan. Kailangan magamit mo ang 5 senses mo in observing. And then, kailangan specific siya. So, from the problem itself, mag-i-specify ka pa. No? So that is why kailangan mo mag-analysis. Now, once you have specified everything yung gusto mo talagang gawin, no? Na-specify mo na talaga siya kahit paano mo siya gawin, yung procedures na gagawin mo, na-specify mo na, you are now going to gather data. Ito na yung sinasabi natin na mag-conduct ka na ng study mo. Pag maririnig nyo ako na magsabi ng ganun, guys, ibig sabihin you are halfway there. No? Ibig sabihin, malapit na. Konting sprint na lang matatapos na ang research niyo. Conduct the study. Ibig sabihin, ayan, magkuha ka na ng iyong data. And then, pag nakuha mo na ang iyong data, syempre hindi mo yan itatapon. No? I-interpret mo ang data na yan dahil nandyan ang kasagutan sa data. Okay? After you interpret the data, you are now going to conclude. Ano nga ba? So, based on, like for example, going back again to the example, the effect of pandemic to the mental health awareness of the students. Now, for example, you have a questionnaire, no? Tapos pinasagutan nyo sa mga estudyante, and then pagdating ng mga kasagutan sa inyo, of course, you will find pattern, no? Titingnan niyo ano nga ba talaga ang nangyari, ano nga ba talaga ang effect ng pandemic. Does it have an effect? So you're going to conclude, apparently it does. It did have an effect. Meron talaga siyang effect kasi, ayan, magsasite na kayo. According to student, ganito, ganito, ganito. Ang sabi niya, naapektuhan daw siya ganito, ganito, ganito. And then sabi rin ni student B, sabi ni student C, sabi ni student ganito, ganito, ganito. You know, you conclude now. And you, of course, support your conclusion based on the interpreted data from the data you have gathered after analyzing, and now you are going to answer your problem. But remember, guys, cyclical ito kasi nga pag draw mo ng conclusion mo, you will realize a lot of other things, and then you will have another problem. At yun na naman ang simula ng lahat. Okay? So anyway, so that is the research process. Next, we have quantitative and qualitative studies. Kasi meron tayong different types of researches. So in quantitative, quantitative research, meron tayong tinatawag na test hypothesis or specific research question or problem. Yun na nga yung sinabi ko kanina, may hypothesis. Like for example, sasabihin ko na ang English proficiency level ng grade 10 students ay below average. Yan. Pero kung qualitative ang iyong research, which is your research for grade 11, you have to discover the idea and general research objects. More on abstract. Okay, there you go. Abstract yung ideas mo. Something that you cannot simply measure. Anong ibig sabihin ng you cannot simply measure? Di ba ang height, ma-measure mo man agad? Kailangan mo lang ng tape measure or yung pang-measure ng height na nasa dingding. Di ba? Ma-measure mo na ang height mo. Kung weight naman, ma-measure mo din. Kailangan mo lang ng weighing scale. But how about love? Can you measure love? How about rage? How about annoyance? How about fondness? How about awareness? Yun na nga. Ma-measure ba to? Meron bang weighing scale na ilagay mo lang dyan yung annoyance mo? Makukuha mo na yung level. Hindi, di ba? That is one of the main difference between quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is on the quantity. It is on the numbers. You can get numbers, you can test numbers, you just put them on a, what do you call this one? You just put them on a statistical method and it will give you answers. Pero ang qualitative, it's unstructured data. Bakit unstructured? Probably it's not numbers and probably it's an entire paragraph. Kasi magsasagot ang estudyante, sasabihin mo ngayon na, nung pandemic, ano ang ginagawa mo usually? Patay. Umpisahan pa lang, maglalaro, wala lang. Even the term wala lang, kailangan mo interpret yan. Ano kaya ang ibig sabihin niya ng wala lang? Bakit niya kaya nasabi na wala lang? Baka may underlying anxiety tong batang to. Baka may depression na nangyayari sa batang to. O baka wala lang talaga, you know? So, that's the issue with qualitative research. It's not exactly biased, but it's subjective. No? Subjective siya. Kasi nga, you have to interpret it on your own. Yung interpretation mo bilang isang researcher at interpretation ko bilang isang researcher ay magkaiba. So, iba yung interpretation mo, iba yung interpretation ko. We are going to have some conflicts, but both of our ideas are correct. Kaya, ang meaning ko dito guys, you might not be able to understand that. Later on kasi pag grade 12 ninyo, marirealize nyo na ang quantitative ay kaiba masyado sa qualitative. No? Pag sinabi na ito ang numbers na nakuha mo, pag sinabi na 8 out of 10 ang tawag dito, ang may ayaw Gen Math na subject, no? Maiisip mo kagad na 80% yan, ayaw nga talaga nila ng Gen Math. Pero kung qualitative ang gagamitin natin, you will ask factors affecting the fondness of grade 11 students. No, grade 11 pala. Grade 11 students towards the Gen Math subject. Gen Math subject. Ito, iba ang makukuha mo dito. Wala kang makukuha na 8 out of 10. No? Narrations, narrative, kwento ang makukuha mo dito. Ayoko ng math kasi nung bata ako ganyan. Or ayoko ng math kasi nakikita ko sa social media, nakikita ko sa media, I have been bombarded by the media ever since I was a child na mahirap ang math. Diba? Something like that. No? So, that in itself is very different. Nakita ninyo ang kaibahan nila? So, that is why qualitative is somewhat subjective. Because you can say that, nagsabi ang estudyante na social media ang factor. Then, this could be another problem. Then you can recommend that. But in quantitative research, no. You will say 8 out of 10% ang may ayos sa Gen Math. Yes, really, 80% is a huge number. And therefore, this grade 11 students does not like Gen Math. Doesn't matter what are the factors, you know. Doesn't matter. I'm just studying about whether they like it or not. So that is quantitative. And in that sense, somehow, meron silang disadvantage and advantages. I will talk about that in a bit, no? Kung ano yung mga disadvantages and advantages. Ito na nga yung sinasabi ko, objective yung conclusion because it's based on numbers. Quantitative is based on numbers. And we know that numbers don't lie. No? Pag nang nakuha mo sa pag nang nakuha mo out of 110, no, sa Gen Math na exam is 97, walang lie doon, walang pagsisinungaling doon. 97 gid ka, no? Pero pag sinabi mo na wapo ba siya? Mas ang sagot mo is matangkad siya. Diba? Not exactly mali. Diba? Gwapo ba siya? Matangkad siya, grabe. Tangkad. Pero gwapo siya. Ang bait, grabe, wow. Grabe, ang bait-bait talaga. But does it answer the question? Well, you know, technically no. But at least you have some information, matangkad siya at mabait. Pero gwapo ba siya? Matangkad at mabait siya. But does it answer the question? Baka kasi ang totoong question mo doon is, so pwede ko ba siyang lapitan or pwede ba siyang kakilalanin or pwede ba siyang maging, I don't know, maging model? O di ba at least matangkad siya o pwede na siya maging model. Yeah? At mabait siya. So kahit i-turn down mo siya as a model, then mabait siya. It's okay. It's going to be fine. Yeah? That is the, what do you call this one, subjective conclusion part of qualitative research. That is why itong part na ito, guys, I want you to enjoy the qualitative research. Kasi pagdating nyo ng grade 12, pagdating nyo ng quantitative, wala na ba, kahit sabihin mo pa na, hala, pero gusto man nila ng Gen Math teach, nagkataon lang siguro teach na 8 out of 10 yung nagsagot, pero gusto man talaga, di ba? Like that, no? So, itong qualitative research, I want you to try and have fun and try to be as open-minded as possible, lalo na during interpretation part ninyo. So, ang quantitative is usually done with surveys and experiments. Ang qualitative is interviews, FGDs or focus group discussions, and observations. And most probably, ang gagamitin ninyo this time around is questionnaire. Questionnaires probably talaga ang gagamitin ninyo this time around. Okay? So, let's have some specific examples for quantitative and qualitative research. So quantitative is, like, let's say, for example, effect of distance learning to senior high school academic performance. So obviously, those are numbers, you know? Academic performance is number. Though that would be your average, no? Yung final average ninyo. Yan. So obviously, it's quantitative. Now, let's try to look at qualitative. Ayan, coping mechanisms of students during pandemic. Obviously, hindi mo yan no? Hindi mo ma-measure. Depende kasi, merong tawag dito, nag-stress eating ng mga bata. Merong movie marathon. Merong K-drama galore. Napanood ng Squid Game, natapos na ang ano ba yung bago? All of Us Are Dead. Now, all of us are puyat. No? So, depende sa coping mechanisms ng students. But the main fact here is that you cannot measure coping mechanisms. That is qualitative research. Okay? So, let's try Marhania. Try mo daw, Marhania, to give me an example of a quantitative research. Effect of blank to the blank. Try lang. And then for Jessa, can you try to answer this one? A qualitative research naman. Factors affecting the blank. Something that is, something na hindi ma-measure, Jessa. Like, for example, yun na nga, coping mechanisms or maybe awareness or something like that. Tignan muna natin ito kay Marhania. Okay. I-correct ko lang to konti, Marhania. This is correct, no? Effect of the blended learning to the junior high school students. But what about the junior high school students? Specify. What about them? Did it affect their stress level? Did it affect their mathematical problem-solving skills? Did it affect their reading comprehension? Ooh, okay. Pwede, no? But for example lang, Marhania, if this is going to be one of your propositions or proposals next year, itatanong sa'yo ng, what do you call this one? Ng panel, anong ibig mong sabihin ng mental health? No? Kasi mahirap i-measure ang mental health. But there are a lot of studies, no, na pwede mong pagkunan ng standardized na questionnaire and we can use that. But when it comes to mental health, it is a sensitive topic because not everybody, especially students, not everybody, alam mo yun, hindi tayo open. Hindi pa, no? Hindi pa. Not yet. We are not yet open to talk freely about these things. So maybe you can say effect of blended learning to, let's say, mental calculations, yung bang sa mathematics, no? Or problem-solving skills, or critical thinking, or maybe logical reasoning, no? Yung mga obvious na mahanapan mo ng test online or from different studies that was published before, and then ma-measure mo talaga, meron siyang scale, and it is indeed measurable. That's fine, Marhania. Thank you so much for giving us an example. How about you, Jessa? In fairness, last time, the research study of, uh, do you remember Jehan? Ano ganing apelyido ni Jehan? I forgot. Ang sa kanya ay ano eh, the effect of playing Mobile Legends Bang Bang in the academic performance of senior high school students. Ooh, Jessa, factors affecting the people in catching up their business. What do you mean catching up their business? What do you mean by this? Is this on the business side or the what do you mean by catching up their business? Kasi nagbaba ang income? Yun ba yun? Kasi nagbaba ang income because of the pandemic, nagbaba ang income ng mga tao. Ito ba yun? Okay, okay, okay. In some way, Jessa, this is, what do you call this one? This could be quantitative because profit, profit man yan, di ba? Ang usually income profit is numbers. So you can what do you call this one? You can measure them and you have a way to measure them. Let's just say for example perception. Yan, no? Perceptions of, let's say, no, siguro mali lang yung pagkabigay ko nung tawag dito. Sa mga panimulang words. Let's say perceptions of a businessman in what do you call this one? In increasing profit during and after or post hindi, wag na during kasi post-pandemic na tayo eh. Increasing profit post-pandemic in, let's say, mag-specify tayo ng lugar kasi ayaw natin ng masyadong malawak. So, let's say, Barangay 23-C, Davao City. Ayan. So that is somewhat better, no? So ang gusto mong malaman ngayon is, ano nga ba ang perception ng mga businessmen? How are they going to increase their profit post-pandemic, no? After the pandemic or currently, right now, para magtaas yung kanilang profit. So that is, actually, the thought is there. It's just that the first one that you have is somewhat, although parang sabihin mo, no, na teach ko man, factors man ang hahanapin ko. But that in itself could be descriptive, no? Descriptive research. And when you have descriptive, it's like a survey, still under siya sa quantitative research, no? But that's fine. So you can change it to perceptions of businessmen in increasing profit post-pandemic in Barangay 23C 23-C Davao City. May mga ganyan. But don't worry guys, later on, or I think during grade 12 pa kayo, we will be talking about research designs, but it will be different, no, than what we are going to talk about in qualitative research. Okay, so I think that's it guys, no? So in this module, we have defined what is research and what is inquiry, and we also discussed why we do research. That is because we have a problem, and that is also because there's a phenomena that we wanted to investigate or study, and also to fill in the gap in the human knowledge. Also, we talked about the characteristics of research, yun na nga, empirical, logical, cyclical, valid, or verifiable. It is also critical and replicability. And then the research process, which starts with a problem, you have to analyze, and then you have to gather your data, and then you have to interpret the data, of course, and then draw conclusion from the data that you have interpreted. And last but not the least, we differentiated quantitative and qualitative research. So guys, every day actually you have been using research methods in your daily life. That is because human naturally inquires about things and is curious. So a little bit of a formative assessment here. So what is an inquiry nga? Ano nga ang inquiry, Jessa? It's gathering info, you're requesting for an information, okay, and it is often a matter of public interest. And how about research? What about research, Marhania? What is research? Okay, good job, no? Yun yung ano natin, no? And the keyword for this one is also the scientific investigation, because that is what makes it different from an inquiry. It uses the scientific method. And then why do we need to do research? Just give me so one of the three reasons that we talked about. Yep, that is correct. Good job. Thank you so much, Jessa. Indeed, to fill in the gap of the human knowledge, or if you have a problem, then you need to find a solution. Or if there is a phenomena that needs to be investigated for future prevention, then we do research. How about characteristics of research that we have discussed? Kahit ano lang na maalala ninyo? Anything that you can remember from the 6 characteristics of research that we have discussed? That is good. It is indeed empirical. Okay, it is indeed logical. That's good. And it should also be cyclical. It's valid and it's verifiable. It's critical and it could be replicated. And then we have state the 5 main steps involved in the research process. Okay, that's good. You have the problem, and then you have to find the relevant parts in the entire problem. You have to do. There you go. You have to analyze, and then afterwards you will have to gather the data, and then after gathering the data, you will interpret the data, and last but not least, you will draw the conclusion. Okay, good job. And then last question here is briefly differentiate qualitative and quantitative research in your own words and from how you understand it, the difference between quali and quantitative research. Yes, indeed. Quantitative is more on numbers. It can be measured with numbers, while qualitative is more on unstructured data. Okay, qualitative is immeasurable in numbers, or they are abstract ideas that you need a different way of trying to measure them. For Marhania, quantitative research put numerical findings, and qualitative research is a general research, or you create generalizations from broader ideas, and mostly these ideas are abstract. Okay. So just to give you the definitions lang, qualitative research deals with abstract ideas and data and interprets it by finding patterns in unstructured data. Quantitative naman has a problem statement and hypothesis that can be verified by gathering data, using a statistical tool for data interpretation, and then drawing conclusion. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for attending the class today. Next week, we will be talking about the qualitative research and its importance in our daily lives and in different fields. Well, thank you so much for attending the class today. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.